Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like Nolan Gorman, is frequently passed up. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Yeah, what the hell? Where is Gorman? I'm covered in Gormania. Hey guys.
And this week, we are going to be talking about the new shortstop situation for the Cardinals, the beginning of the Juan Yepez era, maybe some early season trade talks, and yes, we're going to talk about some other birds. If you have an idea for the opening joke, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Well, Ben, I gotta say, it's hot as hell here in St. Louis right now. Where we touched 95, 96 degrees. It's May. I was going to do this show without a shirt on, but we film these sometimes now. And I don't think the world is ready for this jelly. So, here we are. It's hot as hell already in St. Louis, but I guess I'm excited for Paul Goldschmidt. He's definitely seems to prefer the hot boys season.
So.
But
as somebody who is traveling to Missouri the day this episode drops, I'm very disappointed to hear that. I have not looked at the weather report prior to my travel yet, but I will be bringing only gym shorts and t-shirts. So that is, I guess, good to know.
Well, I think it's supposed to cool down this weekend, but it is frustratingly hot for it to be May. And let me tell you, what people love in podcasts is weather talk. So, I'm excited. Ben mentioned coming in town this weekend to embarrass ourselves yet again at a fishing tournament. How are you feeling about it?
Well, I think anyone who has listened to this podcast for more than 30 minutes or so can probably surmise that we are computer boys for sure. We do well in the digital space. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how great we are in the physical space. And not that like fishing is a particularly physical activity. Like old folks can, do it and do it quite well. But we're stupid.
Famously an old folks activity.
We're maybe I don't know how. It's like there's like a physical stupidity that I think that we hold. And the fact that we didn't fall out of the boat last year, I think, was probably a win.
I think that's a high point of the trip.
We're doing so. It's a crappie fishing tournament, and I think the last year we had probably like a 10-hour window where we did not have a single fish on anyone's hook, which was bad.
Which is, if you don't know anything about fishing, like the whole point of crappie fishing is that like you're not going to catch anything that's particularly big or exciting, but you should catch a lot.
It's just a volume game,
yeah. So just the act of catching fish is there and should be fun. And we were in a tournament that happens every year that my dad hosts. So it's really just us and a bunch of his friends and family,
retired gentlemen,
a bunch of retired gentlemen, and it's Ben and I and another buddy of ours, and we placed. I think there were 16 people in the tournament, and we placed 14th, 15th, and 16th.
We had a good morning the first morning, we did. And that was it.
I felt good, and then the amount of hours you mentioned the amount of time we spent not catching fish. That was with lines in the water. At least we were making an effort. There were hours of just various mistakes that led to us not even having lines in the water that also really impacted the bottom line as far as the tournament goes.
We definitely ran into like a mud bank going about 35 miles per hour, which took us maybe 2 hours to get out of.
Felt good. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if it speaks to our strengths, but I'm going to have an ice cold Budweiser in my hand and and my bros in my boat. That'll be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It is funny, fishing has been a part of our lives, both of our lives, our entire lives, basically. But I really don't do it that much anymore, and am definitely more comfortable on a keyboard or a game controller than I am on a fishing reel.
Classic computer boy statement right there.
There's no Bitcoin in this water.
Lame.
I don't know. So yeah, it'll be fun though. I think we'll probably be able to listen to some Cardinal games. That is actually generally how I engage with more games more often than not. I'm listening to them, and it should be nice out there on the boat. Hopefully not 95 degrees, but even still, wear a nice hat, drink some good Budweiser, and listen to some Cardinal games and laugh about how Mike Shannon used to call them.
Yeah. Are you growing to like our new Ricky Horton announcing almost every game? Are you okay with this now?
I'm fine with it. First of all, I should say
Question, actually.
I've
Yeah.
always liked John Rooney.
Rooney's great.
I'm a big fan of John Rooney, and so John Rooney just becoming even more of like the centerpiece, totally fine with me. I really like him. I sold him like 5 iPhones back when I worked at the Apple store, and I had like a hookup with the business guy at Apple, and whenever there would be like a Cardinal player or some sort of mid-level celebrity that was coming in, I'd be the one to take care of him. And so I spent like 2 hours with John Rooney selling him a whole family plan of iPhones, and it was great. I asked him, "Hey, do you mind if I, talk baseball with you? Because I'm sure that can be obnoxious too, to just be forced into baseball conversations all the time, given his position." And he was like, "No, man, it's my life. I love it." So we talked baseball for quite a while, because selling iPhones is a inherently like dull experience, and there's just a lot of downtime as shit turns on and whatnot. And but also something with like his contract screwed up, and he had to pay like $40 extra on something. And man, he was pissed.
That's
I was
his
like,
money.
yeah, sure. I mean, I hate the phone companies too. It just the whole experience sort of took a turn as he like sort of just ranted and raved about charges and stuff. And I get it. I was on his side, but it was quite the mood change from like
Yeah.
fun baseball conversation. I also sold an iPad to Dan McLaughlin, but he was like, "You know who I am?" It's like,
Dude.
yeah, yeah, I know who you are, but
You don't want to know how many hours I've listened to you speak.
yeah, right. Maybe you do. I don't know. But anyway, so I like John Rooney, I guess, is
Is
where I was going with that.
the question I wanted to ask, is Ricky better or worse than Jimmy Ballgame?
Better, because I think Rick Horton is at least aware of his own sort of awkwardness and goofiness, and he is like trying to be funny at times.
Right.
And I don't. I think like where he can be sort of obnoxious is the sort of like aloofness, I think. Whereas Jim Edmonds, like, I mean, he's become a meme on Twitter and whatnot. Like
Jimmy
the
got a
text
text.
messages,
Yeah.
yeah, all of that. Like, I think Jim Edmonds is a better analyst, when he's doing his analyst stuff. But as a just like color guy, I would prefer Rick Horton.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I hate all of that. I think I've said this before. I'm arguing I want the Brad Thompson, Jim Edmonds, Dan
Yes.
McLaughlin booth. Give me all 3. Why not? Brad Thompson is smarter sounding and funnier than Jim Edmonds, and Jim Edmonds can come in and speak for the hitter side of it. I think
Yeah.
that's what they should be doing. Listen to
Yeah.
us.
Listen to us. Put us in there.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. I should have their job.
They should be fired and they should give the
I
job to
should
me.
also be the manager too. I really feel like I have a better understanding of bullpen usage and whatnot.
Yeah, I think, I was at the driving range the other day and I was thinking I could be a pro. I know
Yeah.
it's not. I know golf and baseball aren't the same thing, but enough that I could do it.
You were out there playing golf thinking you should be a baseball pro?
Yeah.
Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
that is what I'm saying. Okay,
Okay.
let's move on. Let's talk.
Anyway, I look forward to getting last place again in the fishing tournament this weekend. So we'll report back next week. See, the problem is we can't use the skills of being younger and being more adept to technology with fishing. Like if we were doing most activities with a bunch of old dudes, I'd say we'll beat them with physical prowess or understanding of the internet.
Yeah.
And there's like nothing you can do with that for fishing. So
No, it's about like, oh, the sun's up. They're hitting chartreuse spinners right now. Let's go to the old dock by
you
McCormick's
got
Lake or like
you
what?
got to bang the bank up against the big dock.
The bank, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you
All
see if
right.
there are white birds flying in this direction, that means the bait fish are over here. Shut up. Leave me alone.
Witchcraft.
Witchcraft.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, let's talk about the Cardinals. So, some uh, big news over the last week. Something that ultimately is unfortunate. We're never rooting for this, but something that I think it's been kind of a long time coming. And I thought it was going to happen at times last year, but here we go. Paul DeJong has been optioned down to AAA in order to get in the work and hopefully refocus and return to the form that we really haven't seen consistently since 2019. I'm of course as hopeful as the next guy that our near Gold Glove 30 home run hitting shortstop can return to that form. I hate to say that I'm skeptical of that, but I am. He's been pretty rough for a couple years now, but ultimately, I'm just glad something has finally happened. I hope that he returns to form, but if not, I'm also glad that he's not taking up at bats on the major league roster anymore. And we've been waiting for this for a long time because finally, this opens up a spot for us to make the big call up, the one we've all been waiting for. Kramer Robertson has been promoted from AAA to fill in on the infield. So
Yeah.
what news? What a big week.
Yeah, I think we should talk about DeYoung before we get into that. So yeah, I think it's a long time coming. Like you said, his 2019 year where he had a WRC plus of 101. So that is slightly above average. But like you said, if he's hitting right at average, that means he's typically hitting bombs and he's playing great defense. That is a good player. He put up 3.7 F4 that year. That's great. Since that season, he has what do we got 182 games of play since then. He's got a 79 WRC
Yeah.
plus with stellar defense. That's all great. But yeah, I think this move, we've been waiting for this for a while. I think that he's been a bench player for a while. And I think the other problem is like the Cardinals shortstop depth. That is really why this has taken so long. And you could argue right now, obviously Kramer Robinson just got called up, but there's not really a major league shortstop on the team right now. We're going to see what Brendan Donovan does there. Kramer Robinson is probably going to get a start or two. I know they just announced the lineups and he was not on it for today. I don't know if he's strictly a bench guy. I don't think there's anything to be too tremendously excited. He plays decent defense and he walks a little bit, but he is by no means a hitter. So yeah, I'm happy to see that this is happening because the offense has been a problem. I don't think the offense it's not like when DeJong goes, the offense goes or anything like
Yeah.
that. But having somebody who is hitting like a pitcher in the ninth spot
Yeah.
when we have a DH is not productive.
Right. And it's just time to really commit to trying something new. I mean, like they did last year, I'm still so confused or perplexed by the fact that DeYoung essentially lost his job last year to Edmundo Sosa. And we all know Sosa played way above his head. And that was part of why he stayed in playing the hot hand or whatever. But for some reason, that entire shakeup was completely reversed at the start of this season. And we kind of talked about that last week about just or maybe this is a week before, about, commitment to a guy and the contract and all of that. But still, I was very surprised that they went into this year full on, full force. Paul DeJong is our starting shortstop. And then it took over a month of games of just real struggle to finally make the change again. But I am glad that they're committing to the change. Like, optioning to AAA is a real commitment to the change, not the sort of, we're going to start splitting time or whatever. And they have said that Sosa is going to get the first shot at winning the job outright. So I'm still confused as to the hesitation of committing Edman to short. He played a lot of short through his career. They keep talking about how good of a second baseman he is. I get that, but he played all over last year. He wasn't exclusively the second baseman last year. He even played in the outfield last year sometimes. Like, they moved him around, and for some reason they have been like overcommitted, I think, to his defense at second base when I'm sure we really don't know. We haven't seen it for a while, but I'd be surprised if he's not a pretty good shortstop. And with the way he's hitting, like, I think it would be worthwhile to throw him over there and get Gorman up here. But obviously that's not happening just yet.
Yeah, I mean, he is, far and away one of the better defensive second basemen in the league, to the point where it's like, oh, well, maybe he's such a good defender, he should play a more premium defensive position and at least see what that looks like. And I think the Cardinals defense is good enough that even if it is a slight drop off, that's okay. Offense is the priority right now. So yeah, I'm good with all that. I'm definitely excited to see Sosa. I think we've talked about, like, I think, it's hard to argue because it's been such a limited time. Is he an actual better defender or even on par with DeJong? I don't know, but he is more toolsy. He gets hit. He's extremely fast. I don't know. I'm definitely curious to see it, but hearing Ali and Mozela kind of flirt with the idea of slowly integrating Tommy into the shortstop position is very interesting to me because of the hole at second base that opens. And of course, the Cardinals, number 2 prospect, who is continuing to destroy baseballs, could easily slot in there. And we'll talk about Yepez in a second, but like, seeing Yepez's early success in very limited time has got me thinking, like, yeah, just throw the kids in there. Let's go. They seem ready. Yeah.
We have heard Mo now reference Nolan Gorman directly in regards to second base and his future there. And it basically was like, we're going to see how this works out now. And, before we make a commitment to Nolan at second base. And so, they're really taking their time with him. And I do get the sense that they feel that once they make that decision that Nolan Gorman is coming up, he's going to, start the first 3 weeks of games or something at second baseman. And I can understand, like, not wanting to do that without really feeling certain about it, because I think they don't want to call him up, have him start a game, sit a game, start a game, sit a game, move around a lot. I think they want him to be a fixture once he's up. And so you're essentially saying, when you do that, one of these other guys is no longer having a starting job, right? And so they want to see what they have, which in some ways I am appreciative of, because they have been we've been upset at times with us not letting guys get a good enough look before they get moved out, right? Randy Arozarena. So, maybe they're trying to do that with Edmundo Sosa, just like, make sure, he looked so good last year. Let's give him a real shot at this before we, say no to him, because I think if Gorman is our second baseman, then Edman is the shortstop, right? So maybe they want to see more Sosa and just really get a better idea. Was that something last year? But even still, if that was the case, then why start him basically buried in the bench to start the season? So I don't know. Anyway, he's on the COVID IL right now, so hopefully he comes back.
Really talking to yourself in circles there.
I know. So none of this matters anyway. All life on Earth will end eventually. So what are we even doing here?
Wow. And I think, like, before we get all the way there, Brendan Donovan got a start yesterday. Brendan Donovan's getting started at shortstop today.
Yeah.
He hasn't looked bad. He hit a dinger. I mean, I don't think there's anything to complain about Brendan so far. And, whether he is just going to be kind of the guy that pops out, left-hand bat off the bench, and a guy that pops all over the infield and the outfield corners. That's interesting, but we saw him make a very nice play from short with a very strong throw. So I think that's something to be encouraged by. I also think that we're kind of at the point with Paulie D's offense being so bad that I would put a large wager that Brendan Donovan and or Edmundo Sosa are going to out hit him by maybe not necessarily a lot, but enough to, I mean,
it has to
I
be
think he's got like a
something.
122 average. Paulie D has right
Yeah.
now. I mean, he's well below the Mendoza line. So yeah, just getting away from that, addition by subtraction type thing. And hopefully, like you're talking about, one of these guys take it, or Tommy Edman slides over, who just keeps hitting and stealing and
Yeah.
walking.
Paul DeJong this season has a 29 WRC plus. So it's almost, it has to be better than that, right? He's currently worth negative 0.3 Fangraphs WAR.
Yeah.
Below replacement level, right? So I agree with you, Brendan Donovan. It even feels like it just has to put up more competitive at bats. Like the at bats have been rough. Everything about it has been rough, and he is a good defender, but he's not. It's not like you got friggin' Andrelton Simmons out there or something where it's like you could hit a 29 WRC plus and be a valuable player. So
Yeah, I mean, and even that, Anderson Simmons isn't that bad of a hitter. So
right. Well, of course.
yeah, it's all that wrapped into itself. But yeah, I see where you're coming from.
So we'll see. I think this is the biggest sort of roster story as far as who's going to end up as who's going to end up where long term. So lots of still developing pieces on this team. I think let's get out of this hellhole of sadness and into something that we are really excited about and we've been hoping for since spring training. We thought he'd make the team. He didn't, but it didn't take that long for him to get up, and now he is crushing the ball. Juan Yepez, exciting.
Well, you know this, Nate, but I call him Juan YAY-pez because I'm so excited about him being on the big league team.
It's good.
Dang, I thought you'd like that a little bit more, but I was
No,
happy with
it's
that.
good. I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. Yeah,
Well,
Juan YAY-pez, he's come up. I was thinking about this, and we've had a run now of prospects that have been some degree of highly touted and have come up and have kind of taken the normal pace of players being like, not great in their MLB debuts. That is the most likely thing, right? Most guys come up and struggle, put it together, and slowly build a career before becoming, all-star level or above. That's the average. I'm thinking Dylan Carlson, Tyler O'Neill, two of the most highly touted Cardinal people to come up recently. And we've seen that O'Neill took a couple years before he really broke out. And then Carlson is in some purgatory of breakout and not, for the last several months of baseball. And meanwhile, though, while that is the norm, all over baseball for several years now, the stories have been the young guys coming up and crushing, right? Like almost all of the generally perceived best players in baseball right now are like under 25 years old, right? Acuna, Tatis, I don't know, you could keep going, right? And it's been kind of disappointing that like we haven't really had that on the Cardinals. Our best players have been really great players, but they were acquired. Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, stuff like that. So to finally have a someone that we're all very excited about come up and like out of the gates be an exciting player has added to my sort of enjoyment of it, of just being like, oh, this is what it feels like for like a exciting prospect to come up and have an immediate change on the team. Now, of course, super small sample size, right? But we're going to talk here in a moment about some of this. Like, it looks and feels real. Do I expect him to be have an over 1 OPS or anywhere near that for the rest of the season? No, but it certainly has been fun to start.
Yeah, I mean, I think Yepez. There's the other exciting factor in the Yepez story is that not that he was nobody. Like obviously, the Cardinals targeted him and traded for him when they did that Matt Adams deal with the Braves, so there was something in there that they liked. But really, I mean, he was a guy that would hit. He didn't strike out a ton, and would make decent contact. And the only thing I can really assume is that the lockout was really good for him. The offsite was
Yeah.
really good for them. Starting in 2021, he has basically put up a 150 WRC plus or higher at every level. So obviously, he started 2021 in AAA or AA, went to AAA, mashed. Started this year super hot in AAA, and has come up and kept hitting. So, now, there's something also really exciting to have this kind of, not that he was no one, like I said, but have him come out of relative nowhere and mash all the way, and then he comes up here and he looks completely unfazed. I think that adds to the fun of it. That you kind of feel like we stole somebody away from the Braves a little bit there, especially with the DH coming to the National League. It's kind of it seems he's not going to play first for obvious reasons. He's not going to play third for obvious reasons. Have a perfect spot, and I think the Cardinals. You said it last week. The Cardinals feel good enough about him to have him stand out in left field or right field every once in a while. And
Yeah.
then outside of that, I think obviously we didn't watch him play very much down in the minors because I'm just not watching those games all the time like I'm the big league games. And the broadcast has pointed this out too. But I love that he is very clearly to me using his A swing on strikes on the first two strikes. And then when he gets down, he kind of closes up his stance and becomes a bit more of a slap hitter. And I think that is something that frustrates me about watching the Cardinals. Is that there doesn't seem to be a lot of that approach. It's a swing all day. And I'm not necessarily saying that's bad. You have some players that can absolutely make that work. But it's nice to see somebody with a different look who's having success, driving the ball up the middle. He's already popped a home run. Like slight opposite Oppo Taco in one of the hardest ballparks to hit a home run in. I know it was a little bit wind dated, but encouraged by everything I'm seeing. Seemed like he's smiling. He, that whole sub story about his
mom
hitting
was
a home run
there.
for his mom.
He hit a home run. Yeah.
It's all coming up. Yepez right now,
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
it's very exciting.
Yeah. As I call him, YAY-pez.
And I'm going to read my little note. It's sort of a dig at Corey Dickerson, and that's okay. But Yepez, obviously extremely limited time. He has 7 hard hit balls in 17 events. Corey Dickerson has 6 in 42. So that alone, like talk about addition by subtraction. Right now, and I am not ready to call the Corey Dickerson signing a total failure because it's still early and he's a veteran and blah, blah, blah. But in a quarter, not even like a fifth of the time, Yepez has already outproduced him. So seeing somebody that can actually make something happen and is making things happening on the offensive side is encouraging, right?
Well, and even if the Corey Dickerson signing ultimately doesn't work, like I think we all agreed it was a good signing in the moment. It's that sort of depth that we've been looking for that everyone complained about the bench last year, and rightfully so. And you solve it by taking shots at guys like Corey Dickerson or like the Cardinals had done with Brad Miller in the past. And sometimes it works like Brad Miller did, and sometimes it fails like Ty Wigington or Corey Dickerson now. But I mean, in his time as a Cardinal so far, Corey Dickerson has a negative 0.4 Fangraphs WAR. So not great, Ben. I'll say that. And YAY-pez has a 0.5 Fangraphs WAR already. He's been half a win above replacement in his short time as a Cardinal. And yeah, I think he's that like sort of he's young, so he can play outfield still, kind of guy. And ultimately, I think he'll slot in the lineup almost every day as the DH and in one of those spots. And I can't see any reason to stop starting him now. I think he'll get his normal days of rest and rotation like anyone, but like he's been a real jumpstart to a struggling offense, and that switch from Dickerson to Yepez and even Pujols to Yepez, significant upgrade at least right now early on.
And I was just double checking the lineup for today because I thought I must have misread this, but something very curious. Yepez is starting in left field and Corey Dickerson is starting at DH. So I don't know what to make of that really. Do they think that Yepez is a better left fielder than Corey Dickerson? Do they just want to get the kid out there? Is Corey Dickerson hurt? I don't know what to
Well,
make of that, but that seems really bizarre to me.
Corey Dickerson's really tired. He needs that day of rest. No, I
Yeah,
don't know. I mean,
he's
I
played
guess
like
that's
what, like less than half the games this year.
he's had a cool 53 plate appearances. So with a 30 WRC plus, so better than DeJong, but less valuable still. So yeah, I mean it's fun. And like you said before, would love to get Gorman in there and just see, are these young guys who's going to click? We expect obviously regression for Yepez or just a normalization, but there's no reason to believe that he's not good. As you said, he has a track record. He just turned 24, so he's still very young, and will probably improve. Let alone repeat or look like what he
Yeah.
looked like in the minors.
And I think, as far as, take whatever value to the eyeball test, but passing the eyeball test too, it just all looks right to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. So that's really exciting. And we know the offense needs all the help it can get. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how the last week has gone. We had a 4-game series against the Giants in San Francisco. What a beautiful ballpark. Have you ever
Sure.
been to Oracle Park?
I have never been to the city of San Francisco,
Mm.
period.
I went to San Francisco for the first time in October of last year. It was great, and we went by Oracle Park, but it was like late October, and there was no baseball to go to. So it's a cool city, but I mean, one of the most beautiful ballparks, I think, in the league. So I'd love to go to a game sometime.
Yeah, I would too. I have no aversion to San Francisco. It just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so we spent a while talking about how the Giants are maybe the best team the Cardinals have played. I think probably now, in hindsight, after another week of games, we'd say the Mets were definitely the best team the Cardinals have played, and they almost, if it wasn't for a very unlikely Arenado error and a brain fart from Gallegos, it would have taken 2 of 3 from the Mets. And going into San Francisco, tough pitching matchups. I think we were expecting a difficult series, and ultimately started off with a bang. Cardinals take the first 2 and then lose the last 2. Ultimately, I felt pretty good coming out of that series. I know the Giants are scuffling a little bit, but I mean, what were your takeaways from that series?
Yeah, it's the consistency on the offense is really what we're looking for. We obviously saw Mats have a very bad start. Dude's
Woo.
rocking a 7 ERA or something like that right now, which I don't really know what to make of. I don't think we need to get into his pitching again in depth this week, but
Yeah.
obviously that's frustrating. Starting pitching has been frustrating. That is the weak spot of the team right now. Even though I think we're going to kind of rail on the offense a little bit here in
Yeah,
a
I was going to
second.
say, I think we're about to make a point that the offense is a weak part of this team. So maybe that's why the team has ultimately just been inconsistent. Win 2, lose 2, win 2,
Yeah.
lose 2.
Yeah, and we have it right here. The run diff on that on the week that was behind us now. Cardinals scored 33 runs, gave up 25 plus 8 run diff over the going 3-3. So you expect to have an over 500 record when you're putting up those runs and you have that kind of run differential, but that's exactly the problem. There's one game you give up 12 runs, another game you score 10 and give up 0, and it's all. I bring that up because we just need to see it balance out a little bit. And the offense is really, I don't even know if it's a negative of the team right now. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I guess now is probably a good time to dive into what the hell I'm getting at. These are numbers that are based on the entire year's performance, and I think illustrate this is the picture of inconsistency, I guess, is the way to phrase it. The offense, I'm going to talk about barrel rate, and barrel rate is essentially if you're hitting the ball hard at a good angle. You can look it up more than that, but essentially, if you're barreling up a ball, high probability of home run or hit. I think it's over 50% on barreled balls, but look that up. The Cardinals are 27th in the league with a barrel rate of 6%. So there are only 3 teams that are worse than they are at barreling up the ball.
Not great.
Something I think that's even worse is they are 30th. They are the last in the league in average exit velocity.
Even worse.
You can't get worse than that. That's as bad as you can get.
Yeah, in a game that exit velocity is now on like the jumbotron, and exit velocity is a key metric that has really risen over the last few years to be something that people very value and really look at. Dead last.
And
Not good.
we'll go right into another stat that I think is highly valued or at least talked about ad nauseum. Launch angle. Cardinals are second in launch angle, meaning that they are the team that is hitting the ball on average at the highest angle. And a lot of that is because Paul DeJong has been popping up the ball so often. That will just totally throw, especially this early in the season, will throw off your metrics a little bit.
Wait. Let me wait. If I understand this correctly, you're saying they are hitting the ball softly and straight up, and you're telling me that's a problem?
So
Maybe I
now
just don't know enough about baseball.
I think, and you're hitting exactly what I'm getting at. If you are top and exit velo and you're towards the top and launch angle, you have to, you're the Yankees from the early 2000s. You're just popping bombs all day. But those two things tied together is exactly what Nate is talking about. A lot of lazy fly balls or fly balls that are either not getting into the gaps or not going over the wall. So therefore they're not scoring. All that, and I want to kind of like argue my own point here for a second. The Cardinals are still 10th in average on the season. How do you explain that? I think there's multiple ways to explain that. They've obviously been hitting and they have a lot of speed on the team, which just
I was going to say, I
helps
think it's
that
the
kind of thing.
speed. Speed is a big part of it. And then still, like Goldschmidt and Arenado are putting up a pretty good batting average between the two of them. So, like, they're getting hits. There's just gigantic holes in the lineup. And if they're not getting like singles, basically, they're popping it up and, making outs that way.
Yeah. And, Arenado has obviously had an awesome start to the season. Paul Goldschmidt has been coming on a bit, which and I think we're not
Getting
really worried
hot.
about. At this point, I'm not worried about Paul. He takes a little bit to heat up and then gets going and puts the team on
I
his back for 4
guarantee
months.
he hits a home run in tonight's game.
Oh wow, okay.
It's
Write
too
that
hot
down.
out.
It's too hot. But what I found interesting when I was kind of digging through this, if you're looking at Statcast data and peripherals alone, Tyler O'Neill has been the best hitter on the Cardinals. I know that, Dan and they've been talking about how he's kind of in between. If you dig into the numbers a little bit, the actual, not necessarily the results, but the performance, O'Neill has been hitting the shit out of the ball. That is the note that
A
I
lot
wrote.
of line drives right at outfielders.
Right at
And he's
people.
had a lot of good plays made against him. Like,
Yeah.
I think you can see it if you're looking at the outcomes. He looks a lot like he has been last year, just maybe a little worse luck.
His barrel rate on the season is 13%, which puts him in line with players like Vladdy Jr., Shohei Ohtani, and Juan Soto. So you're not
Those
mad
guys are
about
pretty
that.
good.
Yeah. I cherry picked those 3 names, but they were all within less than a percentage point away from O'Neill, and obviously all 3 of those hitters are doing quite well. Shohei is really starting to heat up all of a sudden. Very excited about that.
Woo.
But
is there a more fun player than Shohei?
No, that's not even close.
That's not even close. And like, have always had like I've harbored some resentment towards the Angels. I think even though I don't blame, like I've never blamed Pujols for like going to them. I thought it made a lot of sense for him and his personal choice, but like I always had some resentment towards the Angels for like that contract, and then like they went through that run of just like buying everybody, and like even though I've changed now to where I'm like, yeah, buy everyone should be paid more, but like for whatever reason I basically harbored resentment towards the Angels, right or wrong. It's just how I've felt. And then they also have Joe Madden as their manager, and what a fucking goober that guy is. So anyway, I'm trying to get over that
Yeah,
because
you sound like you're right on the edge of just turning that page. It's almost there, Nate.
I just need to get over it because
Yeah,
I mean, you've got one of the best players of all time, Mike Trout, next to one of the best players of all time, maybe in Shohei
yeah.
Ohtani, and then there's other guys all around the lineup that are fun, and so I'm hopeful actually that they make the playoffs because I want Shohei to get more spotlight. That team and Mike Trout deserves a deep playoff run or two as well. Like I just want to see
Trout's
those
played
guys
in
have.
one career playoff game. Is
Yeah,
that true?
I believe so. Yeah,
That was lost. Yeah.
yeah.
Obviously it was lost since he only played in one. Yeah.
He sat out the
Also,
rest.
while we're talking about the Angels, shout out to Anthony Rendon who hit a left-handed home run
Dude,
off of Brett Phillips last
how
night, which
awesome
was
was
amazing.
that?
Yes. There was a no-hitter thrown in that game, and I definitely was more locked into the Anthony Rendon left-handed home run. That was
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, what an awesome game. Just across the board. No hitter thrown from a rookie and a dude making his first career at bat as a left-handed batter, and he crushes one. And Rendon has had he's not really been what he used to be. So maybe this will unlock something for him, a new bout of confidence. His
I think so.
his Fangraphs page looks really funny when you look at splits now because now there's a whole new line of
Yeah.
left-handed batter versus right-handed batter, or pitcher. Which is so funny. I mean, dead center left, right? Like he crushed that thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It went
it's
to
awesome.
the deep seats and up high too. Yeah, it was
I love to see
pretty good.
when these guys he's like, I'm gonna goof around and I'm gonna bat switch even though I don't. But I'm also like, I'm not gonna hold back. I'm
Right.
gonna go for it. So
It just speaks to how ridiculously athletic any baseball player is, and not let
yeah,
alone one of the better ones. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, Shohei's
Yeah.
fun.
Shohei's fun. To get back to O'Neal, the results are coming. Don't be worried about O'Neal. It's all looking good. It just he needs a little bit of luck. And I mean, if he gets a little bit of luck and gets locked in even more, I think he'll be back on that MVP style of play.
It's going to be wild.
All that being said, I'm not worried about him yet.
Yeah, it's going to be wild when he still ends the season with over 35 home runs.
Yeah. So what's wrong? Okay, those are all the good things. Arenado's being Arenado. Goldie's heating up. O'Neal's just waiting for the results. The culprits. DeJong, obvious culprit. We belabored that. We don't need to talk about that anymore. He's down. Carlson, I think he's been obviously a huge gap that we all expected. Carlson is starting to heat up a little bit, so we're happy to see that. And then Bader. Bader is another person who I if you would have just asked me on the street, I would probably say Bader's the type of guy that hits the ball hard. And he has speed, and it just all works that. But really, we're seeing that he just has a really hard time hitting the ball square. Very low barrel rate, the lowest on the team, I think, right now, actually, besides Tommy Edman. Should have wrote that number down. And what I also thought was interesting is that he's basically hitting his career average. This is kind of who he is. So his value is really going to come on the defensive side. So we need Carlson to produce, and then Yepez, who I think I don't want to put too much pressure on a rookie who just came up and hasn't really done anything, but this might be the kind of access point that turns the Cardinals offense around. Assuming that Carlson can stay heating up and O'Neal doesn't crater at any point.
Yeah. And assuming maybe Sosa or whoever just puts up even 80 WRC plus, maybe 100, league average offense out of that 8 or 9 spot would be a significant improvement. If we're counting the removal of Dickerson, going from a 30 WRC plus to whatever Yepez normalizes to, and the removal of DeJong to whatever Sosa / Edman / Donovan / Robertson are able to produce. It is definitely a combination of addition by subtraction and also just the addition straight up of some good hitters. I think we'd be remiss to talk about Bader and not talk about the inside the park home run last night.
Oh yeah.
Kind of a tangent to the overall topic, but I just have to talk about it. It's so funny. First of all, I mean, he thinks it's gone off the bat, which is
Yes.
hilarious.
He was pimping
I
it
mean,
in the box for sure.
yep, you get that full on swag Bader swing that we all love, right? I mean, that's part of the fun of Bader. That when he does connect in that way, he pimps it, got the hair flowing. He has such a long swing, have at thee, and but it's not gone. And so much so that Yachty thinks it's going to be caught, so he stays sitting at second base. And then whenever it is not caught, Yachty now has to thick boy Yachty has to hoof it from second to home. And Bader, who is incredibly fast, basically catches up with Yachty from home plate to back around, which made me think like, I wonder like if I was standing on second base and Bader, we were basically like, I wonder if Bader could beat me from home to home and me from second to home. Or
I'll
like,
help you from wondering this. He would absolutely beat you.
I think so too. What would he do it in like
Absolutely.
16 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
I
know.
mean, Nate, you're so quick, but
Did
no,
you
he
see
would
me at that
destroy you.
Cardinal 5K?
I
I
did.
got like 300th.
Yeah. That's good.
But anyway, I love Yachty looking over his shoulder and being like, "Oh, like
Oh yeah, and he had a big smile on his face after they crushed
yeah,
home and probably needs an oxygen tank. But yeah, that
yeah,
was pretty fun. Also,
yeah,
Orioles beat us, so I'm not happy about that part of it, but
yeah."
whatever. I'll survive.
Well, hey, they're not good, but maybe they're slightly better than we're expected. We'll talk about them a little bit later. So,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, obviously, you look at the Orioles on your schedule and you're like, sweep, hopefully at least two of three. So, second game of the series is tonight. We'll see. With the Paul Goldschmidt home run that I've predicted, I think we're in a good spot.
Well,
It's gonna be
Packy's
awesome.
not starting tonight. No
Yeah,
offense, Packy. Packy Naughton. Um,
yeah,
I don't.
yeah,
I don't understand that move. Nobody's explained it to me. I'd like it explained like I'm five. Why that happened? There are so many other names that make more sense. Jake Woodford could have came out of the bullpen. I don't know. I didn't like that. I'm annoyed by it. It didn't go horribly. It could have gone a lot worse, but they lost the game because of him, arguably. So here we are.
yeah. I'm wondering if it's something with like starting the game off with a lefty or something, but like the the only like whatever, like bullpen usage is confusing, and if it's a bullpen start, whoever your first one is isn't dramatically different than whoever your second one is, your third or whatever. I'm not too worried about it. The thing that was annoying to me was him coming out for the fourth inning. It's like, man, you got 3 innings of Packy. He only gave up 2 runs. It didn't look. It's not like he was lights out. It seemed like that was enough. I don't know why they needed to go out for a fourth inning, and maybe it doesn't ultimately matter. They won by more than that, but he immediately gave up another run and was pulled not that long after. So it just seemed like 2 runs over 3 innings from a Packy Naughton start. Packy Naughton
That
seemed
was bad.
like I don't know what you're talking about. Seemed like that's the ideal outcome, and why risk it when the bullpen is arguably the Cardinals' biggest strength. So I don't know. Lot of confusion in that whole situation that I don't understand either. Well, I think we've covered enough for this week. Hopefully, we see some of these continuing trends of return to success for O'Neill and Carlson and whatnot. But we've got some other Cardinal news we want to talk about. But before we get to that, I want to remind everybody that this show is supported on Patreon. If you enjoy the show, want to support it, want to help its continued existence, consider donating to us on Patreon. Anyone who subscribes at any level gets access to our private Discord, the Bird Scored, where we talk about the Cardinals and try to talk about games as they're happening and various rumors and instances. And it's been fun so far. Small, but we'd love to have you be a part of it. That's at patreon.com/talking about birds. If you aren't able to support via Patreon, totally understand. We appreciate those that have. But if you can't, consider leaving us a positive review on your favorite podcast app. It helps and it makes us feel good. So, and tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your grandparents. Do your grandparents know about podcasts yet? Probably not. Tell them while you're in a fishing boat with them. It'll go well.
Honestly, just grab their phone and subscribe. No, you don't have to do anything other than that.
Do what I do. Grab my family's phones and rate Talking About Birds at 5 stars. So Ben, speaking of talking about us online, why don't you tell the people where they can find us online?
Yeah, well, we're not online. I mean, we have our socials are online. I'm not online.
Sure.
I don't know what
No,
the
I bought
difference is.
some
Real estate.
like what is it? Blockchain real estate. Yeah,
That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm gonna move there.
You can follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. You can follow us on the Instagrams at Talking About Birds. And if you have any questions for the show, you'd like to comment on the shirt that Nate is wearing today. He's a cool cat. Yeah, he's repping it. Hit us up, email us at talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. We love to hear from y'all. And like Nate said, I'll just reiterate, word of mouth, please, and thank you.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the bird scored, we had an interesting discussion there the other day that we want to talk about a little on the show. I think this is purely fan conjecture, wish casting, you might call it, but starting to see people projecting the Cardinals pursuing Xander Bogaerts in the at some point this season. And you can see why this makes sense if you are playing like a video game and you just get to like create trades out of nowhere. The pieces kind of line up with what you would normally expect from a mid-season rental. The Red Sox were supposed to be good this year. So far, they've been really bad. The AL East is stacked, so already it's feeling like they're out of contention. Obviously, it's really early in the season and things could turn around. But with just the way the AL East is playing and how rough the Red Sox have been, you already start to count them out. So with them considering to possibly be out of contention, they have one of the best shortstops in baseball, and his contract ends at the end of the season. Obvious trade piece, right? And then the Cardinals, obviously, we just spent 45 minutes talking about the problems at shortstop. I mean, could you imagine a better piece to slot in than Xander Bogaerts? I mean, obviously, maybe there's a discussion about defense, but like he's very, very good offensively, and he's not horrible at defense too. So, or maybe he plays second, and you keep Edman or whoever there. But anyway, a lot of things line up for it to make sense for the Cardinals to pursue acquiring Xander Bogaerts. And that's fun. It's fun to think about. It's fun to think about trades, and I don't want to like knock down anyone, but boy, howdy, do I think that this is unlikely. Ben, what do you think?
I think it's unlikely just because of the blockbuster nature of it, and that just obviously decreases the likelihood of anything like that happening because there's got to be a lot of moving parts. Definitely going to have to pay for Xander. I do think there are some interesting factors, and I think you kind of nailed it on the head. Like Xander Bogaerts, they're still the same position, but they might be as opposite of players as you can possibly find at the shortstop position. Light hitting, glove first guy with not really. I mean, Paul's glove is very good. I wouldn't say he's got an amazing arm, amazing range, amazing bat, anything like that. He does have power. And then you look at Xander, who is one of the best hitters in the league, and he just happens to play the shortstop position very steadily. All that to be said, I do think there are some reasons that it does make sense, and you can. I'm not like saying this is going to happen, but you can. You're not. It's not necessarily tinfoil hat line of thought. One of those things being, we just had the biggest shortstop offseason payout we've ever seen. Every team who needed a shortstop, other than the Cardinals, arguably, went out and got their guy, or said, if you're the Astros, you double down on Pena or whatever. So there's not a lot of fits for Xander Bogaerts because those two holes have been filled. I think another thing that's interesting about it is the fact that the Red Sox just committed 150 million dollars to Trevor Story, and in the same offseason, they offered Xander Bogaerts like 60 or 70 million dollars less on an extension. The way
Yeah.
I read, and now maybe it is possible that the owner John Henry just liked Trevor Story and said, "I don't care, go get this guy." And Chaim Bloom wasn't as much part of that evaluation as one would assume. But I can only, make my comments off the information that's provided. To me, that reads like they like Trevor's Story for the long term. They're not as much sold on Xander for the long term. So I think unless something happens here relatively soon, if they don't try to extend Xander relatively soon, he does seem like a guy on the outs. He does seem like he's not a part of the long term plan. Maybe the move is to put Trevor at short next year, who's obviously a very good defensive shortstop. He's not hitting right now. Then they go try to extend Devers, who is very good, and he's still only 25 years old. And they let the 30-year-old, less good defensive shortstop, who is still a premier hitter, let him walk. We've seen this front office let star players walk in the past. Maybe they'll try to trade especially like you're saying, the team has not been playing well at all. I think they have the lowest walk rate in the league, which is just not how this team has been working for the past 3 or 4 years, even when they've been down. So yeah, that's kind of how I read it. That being said, this team is weird and I don't fully get it.
Yeah.
Obviously underperforming what we thought, but when you really look at their team, the construction doesn't make a ton of sense. The pitching just isn't there is really what it comes down to. They need like career years from a couple of guys who are not. Their best player in the year so far has been Michael Waka. Shout out Waka Waka.
Yeah.
Anyways, all that to be said, I do think that there's a trade that makes sense here. I do think I would not be shocked if the Red Sox want to move on from him. The question comes down to, is that something that Mo wants to do? Would they play him at short? What does that all look like? But let's just to have fun with it, take a look at 2 months down the road, and the middle infield is Bogarts and Gorman. I mean,
Yeah,
they might
of
let some
course.
balls get through, but they're also going to put a lot over the wall. And I even with Xander's success that he's had, I still think that he is just an underrated offensive player. I love how he swings and just his whole approach and everything.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of him, and don't let my skepticism, cloud the excitement that I would have for something like that. I just, you know, I every trade deadline now for years has been so anticlimactic for the Cardinals, and I just the degree that they committed to DeJong and the amount of time it took for them to basically commit to a replacement just leaves me very, very skeptical that they're going to commit future resources to a short term rental like it would take to get Bogarts. Now, to add more on your side of the argument, mid-season rentals have the market's really evolved. In the past, even not that long ago, it would cost you your blue chip prospects to get these sorts of guys at mid-season. Thinking about the Cubs have traded, Eloy and Glaber Torres and big guys like that for mid-season additions, and they all worked out. Well, they didn't really work out all the time for the Cubs, but anyway, it was not uncommon to trade a blue chip guy for a mid-season rental. And I think the last few years that's been reduced as teams continue to increasingly value their prospects and their top guys. So maybe you pull off something with like a Alec Burleson and a other lesser guy. Burleson
I
is
would have to think that the Red Sox would be targeting pitching. Burleson may be a
yeah.
part of that as well, but my read on the situation is they'd want a starter or two.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, how do you feel if the Cardinals suddenly are trading? Not like we have crazy starting pitching depth. They're probably looking for someone pretty good for him. So I don't know. I don't see the Cardinals actually doing it just based off of previous trends. But hey, it'd be fun if they did. So I think it's fun to talk about because yeah, I mean, Bogarts going into this lineup would be huge.
Go get him, Mo. Do it. Make it happen.
Make it happen. Any other sort of rumors like that or ideas around trades that you want to talk about?
I was kind of just curious. This got me down a little bit of a rabbit hole, so I'll just throw out some names that I think are interesting on teams that I think would be motivated to trade. Paul Blackburn has had a great start to the season. He
Yeah.
is on the A's, as well as Frankie Montas still out there, and makes a lot of sense for the Cardinals. I still think, if I'm the king of this team, I'm still starting pitcher would be the number one thing I'd be focused on. Another name, and this the reason I picked out this name is not because it is particularly exciting to me, but it does seem like a very John Mozeliak move.
Yeah.
Martin Perez is rocking a 2.55 FIP early on this season so far, with a 53% ground ball rate. And that looks exactly like the type of player the Cardinals would go for. He has yet to
Yeah.
give up a home run. He's not walking anybody. He's not really striking anybody out, but he's being effective in the strike zone and getting a ton of ground balls. And obviously, we know how good the defense is, and that makes a lot of sense. So I would say if I were to put money on anything, it'd be a player like Martin Perez, and then I'll dream a little bit about Montez and Xander, although far less likely to happen.
No, we know it's going to be like some middle reliever from the Pirates or whatever. So
Yeah.
uh, I don't want to be too cynical here. It's just there's only so many years in a row I can be refreshing MLB trade rumors at
Mhm.
midnight, for nothing. So, all right. Well,
Well, let's go, Martin Perez.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they usually do something, right? It's
Something.
just
Yeah.
it's rarely these big ones. So Martin Perez, you might be right. That's like exactly where it'll land. It could be worse. It could be John Lester or J.A. Happ.
Oh my
But,
God. Yeah.
although that worked, I guess.
Sure.
All right, we're going to move on. We're going to return to a segment from our original version of this podcast. Now, we have not done this yet on our reboot, but we're a month in. The name of our show is Talking About Birds, and obviously, we primarily focus on the Cardinals, but that's we want to be inclusive. We want to be inclusive to all birds. So there are two other teams in the majors that are bird related. That is the Baltimore Orioles and the Toronto Blue Jays. And so we're introducing our newest dumbest segment, talking about other birds. Talking about other bird. Talking about other bird. Talking about other bird. Talking about other bird.
Hey,
Thank you to associate sound producer Chris Phillips for that beautiful new song for talking about other birds.
Other birds. Yes.
All right, so quickly, let's dig in here. I thought this would make sense to do now because we are currently playing the Baltimore Orioles. The last time the Orioles were in St. Louis, Albert Pujols was the starting left fielder. How about that fact for you?
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So let's start with the Orioles. What's going on with them this year? A team that is routinely laughed at, right? They've been kind of bottom barrel. Let's make fun of the Orioles. It's been like them and the Pirates, I think, have really been like the butt of like, aren't these teams bad jokes for a handful of years now. And, rightfully so. They've been very bad for several years in a row now. I think they are part of the reason why you see these crazy win numbers in a lot of the AL East teams because they all just get to beat up on the Orioles. And I'm not going to say that they are anywhere near good this year. They are going to end up below 500. They will likely end up last place in the AL East again, though right now the Red Sox are underneath them. But there's a few guys on the team now that are kind of fun, kind of exciting. If we look at their record right now, they are 13-17. The Reds would kill for that win total.
Yeah, they might literally kill for that. Yeah.
And they had a breakout season from Cedric Mullins last year. A 30-30 season. He's 27 years old. I mean, what an exciting player. He's fun to watch. We saw that a little bit in the game last night with the Cardinals. Dynamic player. Him and Austin Hayes are currently leading their position players in Fangraphs WAR, each accounting for one WAR each. which isn't crazy high. You know, they're still a 13-17 team, but like that's a pretty good clip, and they could end up being, you know, if they can continue a pace like that, that's super successful seasons. And Austin Hayes is a guy that has been sort of like what Cedric Mullins was until his breakout last year. Everyone keeps thinking like he's gonna break out. This is gonna be a year. You know, at some point, Austin Hayes is gonna have a 25-25 season or something like that. And not calling that now, but he's been looking pretty good. And guys like Anthony Santander, Jorge Mateo, Ryan Mountcastle, like their lineup can be good. And I think there are some teams in across the league that would trade their lineup for the Baltimore Orioles lineup right now. Not a lot of teams. Please don't get me wrong here, but they are not the worst. I don't think they're the worst lineup in baseball. And they've got Adley Rutschman, arguably the top prospect in baseball. Definitely, if you take out the guys who were called out at the beginning or called up at the beginning of the season, like Witt and Julio. You know, he comes up. Maybe the Orioles are starting to be semi-competitive soon. Still unlikely, but at least they have some fun players on their team for what feels like the first time in a while.
Yeah, and I think their position player side is a lot stronger now than it has been in a long time. Like you said, the breakout of Cedric Mullins, Santander being consistent. He kind of broke out a couple of years ago, but they are still a team that is starting Rougned Odor and Robinson Chirinos.
Yeah,
Trey Mancini having a bit of a down year right now. He's a player I like a lot. Also, just the story
of course.
around him is, heartwarming and all that good stuff. But the pitching is bad. I mean, and this is what you should get when you are paying. I think they're under $30 million for their entire payroll, and they're still paying Chris Davis a good chunk of money.
Yeah.
I do not like how the Orioles have been ran for quite a while. I would say
Yeah.
in the early 2000s, I considered the Orioles were my AL team that I followed when they had, Melvin Mora and Miguel Tejada was on the team. There was my mind is blanking on some of their. Brian Roberts was their second baseman, who was a fantastic player. They used to be a great team, and they have just been such a bottom of the barrel team since. I mean, Buck left, I guess, really, with no sign of improving. Like they just started scouting internationally, like 3
It's
years
not a good
ago.
look. Yeah.
No,
Hey, at least they're trying. At least they started.
they are
Could be
starting. They
worse.
are trying. The thing that I think is a bummer is like, is Cedric Mullins going to be around long enough for Adley Rutschman to get into his prime? I don't know if I can answer that with any confidence. I'll say the same for Santander, and the same for Mountcastle. Mountcastle's another player I don't think you mentioned, who I think is very exciting and could be a guy that's around for a long time and hitting bombs for a long time. But yeah, like I just don't see an obvious plan, and they're not spending money, and that's kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
I don't love that. Is not what baseball needs. I guess I'll also point out that Bradish pitched very, very well against the Cardinals the other night. I don't know how much of
Yes.
that was him. He's definitely looking very good to start the game. That fastball was playing, and that slider, tight curve, whatever that breaking ball was. Definitely. I mean, there was a swing that Juan YAY-pez took on it. It was 0-2 curveball, slider, or whatever. I mean, he just had no chance. It was nasty. So obviously they have talented players, and there are guys there that can make a difference, but it's like their timing doesn't make sense. And they're arguably one of their best players, or their best pitcher is out with Tommy John, the lefty,
John Means.
John Means. He's gone for the year and into next year. So I just don't understand. I would love to know what their 5-year plan is, because it is extremely unclear to me. But yeah, I mean they're playing right now ish. I mean their bats are heating up. They made beat the Cardinals last night with an outstanding performance from Bradish. But you'd have to assume that the Cardinals take the next 2 games, and if they don't, you'll hear us cry about it next Thursday.
Yes. Yeah. The pitcher on their team that's leading them in F4 is Bruce Zimmerman. And if that's the first time you've heard that name, you are forgiven, because yeah.
By the way, Keegan Aiken, he's got 18 and a third innings pitched.
Yeah.
1.96 ERA. Dude's lighting it up.
There you go.
Never
he got
forget
that
Keegan
talking
Aiken.
about birds bump.
He sure did.
All right. Well, let's talk about the on the other side of that, uh, you've got the Toronto Blue Jays, who, from a results standpoint, they're doing okay. They're 17-15, coming in at third place in the very difficult AL East. But from a roster construction and excitement level, I mean, can you think of a more polar opposite of the Baltimore Orioles than the Toronto Blue Jays? Star-studded. They've committed a lot of money. They went out and got big guys last trade deadline and during the offseason. They have, outside of Ohtani, maybe the most exciting player, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He should have won the MVP unanimously last year if it wasn't for the the maybe single greatest season in baseball history from Ohtani last year. Like, exciting team up and down. They're not hitting quite to the degree that they thought they would, or that you expect them to. And Robbie Ray has been good but not great. Barrios
Robbie
has really
Ray is
struggled.
not on that
Wait,
team.
did I say Robbie Ray? Well, who did I
Kevin
mean? I don't
Gossman
know.
is who you're thinking
Kevin,
about.
yeah.
They
Um,
basically swapped out one ace for another ace about the same price.
yeah. Gosman has been good. Barrios has been struggling.
Barrios has been rough.
And Alek Manoah looks like might be one of the best pitchers in baseball now. So, like, there's a lot to be excited about this team. And they've been kind of my favorite AL East, or just AL team now for a while, the team that I followed. And, I won't say that they will win the East. The Yankees certainly look legit. And the Rays are always a contender there. But I'd be really surprised if the um, Blue Jays don't make the playoffs. And I think they have as good a shot as any other team in the AL to make a deep run in the playoffs. It is a fun lineup.
Yeah, and I think like this is how championship teams are built. Quick shout out for Alejandro Kirk as well, who is just one of my. He just has like his player profile is insane. He's
Yeah.
like very short. He's kind of round. He walks a lot. He doesn't strike out, and he's a fine defensive catcher. I just
Yeah.
like watching him play, and he's fun. But just I just want to reiterate, like they have drafted well. Vladdy Jr., Bo Bichette, Lourdes Gurriel, and who am I forgetting?
Well, and they
Teoscar they
signed George.
traded for.
They signed George Springer, who, when
And
healthy, is he's leading their team right now with 1.2 Fangraphs WAR. He's, as a position player, he's leading their team. He's great when he's healthy, and so far he's been healthy.
So they draft well, they spend money well, they get guys who have high upside. And Kevin Gossman, Yusei Kikuchi, I think was a pretty good pickup by them, although he hasn't fully clicked in yet.
You
He's
say
walking a lot of.
Kikuchi. I say
Kikuchi. That was bad. And then they trade.
YAY-pez.
And they trade for good players. The Barrios trade, it hasn't borne fruit yet, but I think it's going to. The Matt Chapman trade I thought was pretty brilliant. Raimel Tapia, sad to see him go from the Rockies, but he makes sense for that club too, giving him left-handed look. Teoscar, they're just a well-constructed team with very little holes. They're waiting, their pitching will probably click in. Their bullpen will as well, or their bullpen leaves a lot to be desired right now, but I think they'll click in. But yeah, I would bet money on them they're absolutely making the playoffs. It's just a question of do they win the division or not.
Right.
They're a team that I watch a lot. I also like their announcing crew, although very sad news about Buck Martinez and him dealing with cancer, and hopefully he gets back and healthy soon. But I love their TV crew. I love watching their games. I'm a Blue Jays fan. Just watching Vladdy, who hasn't even really heated up yet. Just watching him play is so much fun.
Yeah, it's a great team. I'm a big fan. And like I said, they are my AL team. I'm also a big fan of the Mariners, but I'm a big fan of the Blue Jays. So we'll continue to monitor this story as the season progresses. I know you come to us for all your bird related content. And if you didn't like this segment, don't tell us about it. We're going to move on.
We do not accept feedback.
Yeah. We're going to move on to the final segment of the episode. Ben, I'm coming back at you. Familiar challenge. You've generally done really well at this game over our time together, but I think I'm going to get you with this one. We're here now for another round of Who is this guy?
Who is this guy?
Honestly, I hope I do well because I felt a little beaten up by the Star Wars challenge last week. So I need a W.
Well, we'll see. So, if you're new to the show, I have a list of facts about a member, a baseball player who, at least at one point in their career, was a member of the St. Louis Cardinals. I so far, I've stuck to, one of the rules or one of the caveats has been they were a major league player for the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm not pulling someone who was like a prospect and then traded or something like that. They spent time on the major
Brett
league
Wallace.
roster. Yeah. I was thinking about him earlier. I was trying to think what was the last like big midseason acquisition the Cardinals made, like rental. And I don't think it's Matt Holliday, but it might be Matt Holliday when they traded Brett Wallace for him. So anyway, so I have a series of facts. What?
I think you're right on that.
I might be. Guess it depends on what you mean by like big, because like, well, there was the big Colby Rasmus trade, but that was like for a bunch of dudes, some of them rentals. But like going and getting a star, like a singular star at the midseason.
I can't think of anyone. Yeah, you're right.
If you can think of one, tweet us at Talk About Birds. So I start with incredibly vague facts about this player. I get increasingly specific, and Ben has to make a guess after each fact. So let's begin. This player was born on April 16th, 1969 in Sacramento, California, and debuted in 1993. Debuted in Major League Baseball in 1993.
Sacramento 69, debuted in 93.
That's my AOL Instant Messenger handle.
Nice.
Sacramento 69.
That's stupid. Okay, Sacramento. I know it's in California.
Nice.
1969.
Damn it, you got it. How'd you go?
1969, definitely the end of the 60s.
Definitely, unequivocally, the end of the 60s.
You cannot argue with me on that.
Yeah.
Debuted in 93, you say. I mean, all that age stuff lines up with Jim Edmonds, but I don't think it is Jim Edmonds, and I cannot remember if he is from NorCal or SoCal. So that doesn't really help me. But since I believe in making a guess, I am going to guess Jim Edmonds because that's the only player that's coming to mind.
Incorrect. I need a sound. Effect.
I don't like it when you give me the buzzers and stuff. It hurts my feelings.
Now I want to have a sound effect even more. All right. This player won a Gold Glove in 2001 and a Gold Glove in 2002 and was an All-Star in 1998. They also led the league in hit by pitch in 1994 and 2000. One of those was 28 times he got hit by a pitch. So, ouchie. And in 1996, 1998, and 2001, he led the league in second base putouts.
Okay. Second base putout. So he's a second baseman. That helps out quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right. And he got hit a lot. A second baseman that got hit a lot. It's from California. Definitely at the end of the 60s.
It's helpful.
And we can reasonably assume he stopped playing baseball in the early 2000s at some point. He debuted in 93. Second baseman for the Cardinals. Wow. I feel unhappy with my brain right now.
This is a tougher one. I've been going with, like literally Cardinal Hall of Famers for most of this. So,
right.
Throwing you a little bit more of a challenge here.
Yeah, and also like I think I'm struggling with the fact that the Cardinals second base has been a revolving door for such a long time. There are just so many people
Yeah.
that fit into that mold. But I need to make a guess. And oh god, I don't the second baseman from that time period. I don't know if he's American or what his actual country of origin is. So this is probably a bad guess. Oh god damn it.
Spit it
But
out.
I need to make a guess. Fernando Vina.
God damn it. Yes, that you got it.
Yeah.
That You're good. You got it. It's Fernando
Ooh.
Vina. I thought I'm gonna. All right. So nice job. You got it in 2.
Holy crap.
I don't know what's better, you getting it earlier, if I should make it more obscure.
I was really struggling with like, was he born in America? I could not remember that for the life of me. Okay. Ooh.
Well, I've got some more facts for you. We'll see. If you wouldn't have gotten it there, when you would have maybe gotten it. So, my next one was this left-handed second baseman played with Seattle, New York Mets, Milwaukee, St. Louis, and Detroit across 12 seasons. He spent 4 years with the Cardinals. So, I think it was after him that the real revolving doors really started.
Right.
This next fact, my favorite one, well, we'll see. He was once very famously crushed by Albert Bell who was trying to break up a double play. He was also featured in the music video for Jermaine Dupri's Welcome to Atlanta Coast to Coast remix with Nelly, Murphy Lee, and the St. Lunatics.
Really?
Yep.
I did not know that. I am going to watch that video as soon as we're done recording.
And then my final one was, now I have no way to confirm this, but I bet his favorite drink is a pina colada.
That sucks.
Yeah. I'm trying to give it to you there at the end.
Yeah. I think I would have gotten that one, I hope. I'm not sure if I would have gotten the Nelly one. I think I would have been way in my own head about that. I don't know who I would have guessed. I did.
Yeah,
I'm amazed. That's an amazing fact.
Have you seen the video too of him being crushed by Albert Bell?
I believe I remember that, but I'm not sure if I would have been able to call that one up from memory either.
He was not a Cardinal when it happened, and Albert Bell got suspended for 5 games from it. But basically, like, ground ball right at the second baseman, he's charging the ball, and Bell, they basically intercept in the base path, but Bell, instead of, I think what a lot of people would do, trying to avoid the impact, maybe go around or something like that, he basically drops his shoulder and just crushes Vina. He goes down hard. Now, fortunately, he was totally fine. He got right back up, but it was like a football tackle, and it's all over YouTube. So look it up. You won't see someone get just demolished like that very often.
Yeah, Albert Bell, while a very good player for an amount of time, seems like an asshole. I feel like there's so many stories like that where it's like, he absolutely destroyed this person and almost ended their career. But man, those Cleveland teams were good back then.
They were good. So, all right. Well, good job, Ben. You got it in 2. That was the most obscure one so far. So, nice work. I always liked Fernando Vina,
I would say like top tier facial hair, like very well manicured goatee, which I always respect.
Keeps it tight. Yeah. Yep.
As a sloppy person.
Well, with that, that will be the end of this week's episode. Thank you all, as always, for listening. We will be back here next week with yet another episode of Talking About Birds. Wish us luck on our fishing tournament. There's a non-zero chance that we both don't just fall into the lake and live with the fishes. And assuming we come back, we will hope to return to some good Cardinal baseball. And we'll talk to you all next week. And until then, go Cards.
Free Gorman.
purple like pool snake. Not snake, pool noodle. Well,
Yeah.
I'll make sense. It'll make sense why I say snake in a second. We have a purple
So
pool
far, this is
noodle.
good. Yeah.
And it's been like out on the floor recently, and Pixel has been going ape shit on it.
Yeah.
And I think it's because she thinks it's a big snake.
Like trying to kill it, or she's
Yeah,
afraid
she's
of it?
defending us.
Oh, wow. Peepo for the
So
win.
far, she's managed to tear it to shreds in several parts.
Yeah. We have a like a foam roller.
Yeah.
We've
Similar.
had it for years, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
And the ends are just 100% cat bites and fraying, and
Yeah.
it's a big fat snake. I'm a snag. Uh-oh.
I'm a snake.
I'm a
Oh,
snag.
yeah. Damn it. The
I'm
snake's
a
back.
slithery little snag. Hiss. Hiss.
So we got rid of the snake.